just give another couple of minutes for everyone to enter. All right. I'll start with our introductions this morning, and then Yoo Young, I'll turn it over to you. Bonjour et bienvenue à tous et à toutes. Nous sommes heureux de vous accueillir à la 10e session de la série Boîte à outils en sciences humaines numériques. Good morning and welcome to the second workshop of the Data series for the Digital Humanities Toolbox sessions. I'm Jada Watson, coordinator of the Digital Humanities at the University of Ottawa, and I'm delighted to be hosting this series with you this fall. Before we begin today, I would like to start our session with an Indigenous land affirmation. Nous rendons hommage au peuple algonquin, gardien traditionnel de cette terre. Nous reconnaissons le lien sacré de longue date l'unissant à ce territoire qui demeure non cédé. We pay respect to all Indigenous people in this region from all nations across Canada who call Ottawa home. We acknowledge the traditional knowledge keepers, both young and old, and we honor their courageous leaders past, present, and future. Today's session is being delivered by Yoo Young Lee, who's currently Interim Head Information Technology at the University of Ottawa Library. Prior to this position, she worked as Open Scholarship and Digital Initiatives Librarian to advance open scholarship practices on campus and collaborated with other colleagues on the Digital Initiatives Project, including Herstories, a documentation of women's experience during the pandemic. I'm actually going to pop a link into that in the chat for that in a little bit. A note on this presentation, the presentation will be delivered in English and slides will be in English today, and any questions can be posed in the chat or Q&A in French or in English and will be answered in the language asked. So we'll move on to the workshop. In a digital world, data is everywhere. Your tweets, your clicks, your likes, and even your typos. These types of online data sets enable researchers to study humanities in a new way. In this workshop, you'll learn where and how to find unconventional digital data sets with real case studies. And I'm excited to introduce to you today, Yoo Young Lee.
Hello, so I'm gonna share my screen. So, oops. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so hello everyone, and thank you, Jada, for introducing me and giving me an opportunity to talk about finding unconventional research data. So Jada already shared the URL to the slides in the chat. So I aim to make this workshop interactive by asking questions using a Zoom poll function, and there are also some hands-on activities or demonstration on how to download unconventional data sets. I tried to demonstrate a real research study as an example, especially in the DH field, digital humanities field, so that you can apply their methodology and the way they find and use data sets for your future studies if appropriate. Part of today's workshop includes technical components such as how to use API to access data sets, but this workshop is designed for a beginner so that even with no prior knowledge of certain aspects, you can understand the lessons and apply the comments in your research project. My goal today is to cover as much as possible to give you broad views and possibilities to use some of the data sets that you've never thought of, as well as new ways to access these data sets from libraries, digital collections to photo. So today's workshop is not about talking about topics in detail, but more about introductory workshop to various kinds of digital data sets. Today's workshop is not about how to find your data from statistics or how to find geospatial data sets, but I want to highlight and point out that at the University of Ottawa Library, we have an amazing team of data experts, including Felicity and Chantal, who gave the first DH workshop in September this year. And there are very useful guides on beginner's guide for finding data and statistics and geospatial data. So you can check their guides if your interest is really about how to find stats and geospatial data. So before my librarian career, I worked as web and database developer for Psychology Research Lab, whose main focus was to study a baby and infant at McGill University. And that was my first time to work with researchers around data. There were 6 or 7 different and specialized research groups. One focused on babies' sound development, and the other group focused on autism, but their study population was all babies under 12 months. So my role was to develop and maintain a secure and shared database among those researchers so that they could easily access babies' information. Since then, I had many opportunities to work with other librarians and developers to build a new generation of digital repositories to make library collections and data more discoverable and easily accessible. But as a digital user experience librarian, I had conducted a lot of user studies and usability testing, but also I was super interested in digital footprints, which is a trail of data that user created while using the internet in order to make their experience better. So that's a quick summary of me related to data, and I would like to get to know you, but since it is a big group, so please let me know your name, where you're from, and what you expect to learn from this workshop in the chat. I would like to ask my first question. So what types of data have you used for your study? And I think Jada will pull out our first poll. So you can just choose all that apply. Jada, can we see the result right away, or do we have to wait?
The results are loading, excuse me, the results are loading as I keep the poll open.
Mm-hmm.
So we're almost at 100%. 38 of 47 participants have voted.
Okay, so can we see them?
Bonne question. I assumed everybody could see them while it was happening. Okay, let's just let the poll end.
Okay.
And I can tell you that qualitative data has 68%.
Okay. So I guess most of you use the qualitative data sets, I guess, for your studies. Okay, so my second poll, oh, good, I can see.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so I guess most of us use qualitative data sets, but also quantitative. Oh, a lot of people also use emails and social network data. Oh, that's cool. Okay. So my second poll, have you used APIs to access data sets for your research? Okay, 70% no or not yet, and 20% yes. Okay, that's good because I'm going to talk about API access. Okay. Okay, so the first study I would like to demonstrate is the cloning user conducted by Palmer, Polly, and Pollack in 2016. The aim of the study was driven as a pursuit of the long-sought origin story of Hoosier. The term Hoosier is the official demonym for a resident of the US state of Indiana, like Quebecois in Quebec. The origin of the term remains a matter of debate within the state. So librarians at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, also known as IPUI, tried to discover the earliest appearance and original meaning of the word using corpora from the Libraries of Congress chronicling America. Oops. So the Chronicling America is a website providing access to information about historic newspapers and digitized newspaper pages produced by the National Digital Newspaper Program, also known as NDNP in the States. To encourage a wide range of potential use, they designed several different views of data, including traditional search bar that I'm going to show you later, and browsing and API application programming interface, and all of which are publicly visible and available. So traditionally, so we go to the website and then we search. So I'm going to put Ottawa, Canada. And then you can see with the result of the digitized newspaper pages where they contain Ottawa data in the full text. So that's kind of the traditional way of searching and browsing. So the Chronicling User study chose to focus their text analysis on digitized newspapers available by its API access and applied our programming language for data analysis and visualization. So relying on massive data sets of machine-readable text covering the years from 1836 to 1922, they found new insight on the term Hoosier uses through the time and across geography. So I'm going to show you how they did. So if you go to Hoosier map cross, so you can see like the frequency of the Hoosier term appear each state. So the number of pays and the number of pays with Hoosier, and then percentage of pays with Hoosier. And then you can see like in Michigan, Illinois, and then also color difference where Indiana has really high frequency using Hoosier compared to other states like Alaska, almost pretty much not really available, things like that. But if you want to go to the Hoosier by year, you can see by year, like when they appear, where they appear by year. So you can see like it appear more through the times of year 8047, 48, 49, like more interactive visualization, and also work clouds by decade. So from 8036, 8039, like mostly Hoosier around Indiana, sometimes Sucker, West, but you can see like different period, like state, Indiana Bank, things like that. So library has always been a place for researchers and students for bountiful information, data, heritage collection, and just to name a few. While the librarians have broad experience replicating the analog experience of watching, viewing, and reading in a digital environment, we less commonly share the experience of supporting users who want to work with collections as data, sort of a conceptual orientation to collection that renders them as ordered information stored digitally that are inherently amenable to computation. So librarians, archivists, researchers, and cultural heritage practitioners, mostly in the States, form a national initiative called Collection as Data to develop a strategic direction to creation of a collection as data framework and identification of methods of making computationally amenable library digital collection. They share current and potential approach to developing cultural heritage collections that support computationally driven research and teaching. So since this workshop is not about API, I will briefly explain what an API is and how it is used in the library field to provide information. So API stands for Application Programming Interface, as I mentioned earlier. API is a set of definitions and protocols for building and integrating application software developed originally for developers. API let your product or service communicate with other products and service without having to know how they are implemented. So this can really simplify app development, saving time and money. In other words, the API is a technical gateway enabling the automated exchange of information between software systems. So in the picture, so usually user communicate with the website through a graphical user information, but between two different systems, they communicate or exchange information through the API gateway. So API have been used by researchers and librarians to pull, manipulate, and display useful data from databases or library digital collections, especially in two ways, so discovery and access. So the University of British Columbia Library launched the Open Collections portal in 2015, where you can find almost 100,000 plus digital objects and 7 million pages of full text that are unique to UBC, so University of British Columbia. The portal houses digital content ranging from photographs, maps, videos, podcasts, book chapters, journal articles, and data sets. It also provides an advanced tool to help researchers augment their research skill via the Open Collections Research API, enabling researchers to run powerful queries, perform advanced analysis, and build custom views, apps, and widgets with full access. But I think you need API key to use their API in order to pull and download their information through the API. And the Library and Archives Canada also joined the Government of Canada initiatives on open data in 2011, which provides all Canadians with access to data sets and associate metadata in the public domain. So Library and Archives Canada released their two data sets, the Soldier of the First World War CEF and Maps, Plans, and Chart of Canada. I would like to highlight Open Parliament. So one Canadian citizen whose name is Michael, he developed a site to provide access to data related to Canadian federal MPs, bills, debates, and committees, as well as API. This is one of the really great examples of the open initiative. So this is not really part of the open data initiative by Government of Canada, but he used basically their protocol and API to pull data, so it's really easy to see and then visualize like the frequency and then when, things like that. So I really hope to see that this list is growing, and one day University of Ottawa Library provide API access to our unique and amazing digital collection so that researchers really can benefit for their research. I'm not going to read through all of them. Rather, I will highlight some of them. So if you are interested in artworks and information about artists and makers, the Metropolitan Museum of Art provides data sets of information on more than, I think, 470,000 artworks in its collection for unrestricted commercial and non-commercial use. And also the Antitrust Bibliographic provides access to bibliographic and rights information for items in their IT Trust digital library. And in order to use its API, I don't think that they ask you to register either. But the IT Trust data provide access to content including page image, OCR, and in some cases, whole volume packets, as well as metadata, but registration is required. The last one that I want to highlight is really the National Library of Medicine. They provide several public APIs that allow programmatic access to many databases and tools, including entrée programming utilities like PubMed, PMC, Gene, Nucor, and Protein. There also are and Python package just for e-utilities. So if you use either R and Python for your study, you can really download, manipulate, visualize in one environment.
Yeah.
And then, go ahead.
I have a question that came in, and I think it's related to the UBC example with the API. The question is, what is an API key, and where can we get it?
Okay, so API key is kind of, let's put that way, contract between you and the UBC, so that like UBC state these are the terms and that you need to follow, things like that. So in order to get the key, I put the information here, API documentation. So if you go there, they explain like what API and then how to use it, and then there is a register and API key. So you can register there and then get one and then use it. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions so far?
No, that's the only one so far.
Okay, thank you. And then again, like some of the data, like the Europeana also provide API access, and also Eurostat. So if you use like data sets from Eurostat in R or Python, again, like you can download directly to your analytical environment. And then if you are interested in like the article metric or citation analysis, again, some of the scholarly database also provide access to API as well. So you can, again, like download the data and then manipulate and visualize in one environment. Since our next digital toolbox workshop by Connie is like how to clean up data using OpenRefine. So I'm going to briefly show you how to download using API from the Chronicling America to OpenRefine, because it's really easy. So let me go to the, so I just opened the OpenRefine already. So usually there is like get data from your computer web address. So in order to get the, so in order to download data from the Chronicling America that I show you, so just click web address URLs, and let me just copy the address. So you can just, So just follow in the API documentation, it explains how to download JSON data through their API. So basically that's their format. And then what I want to know I just want to pull text including Canada, but I don't want to download a whole bunch of pages or text including Canada, just return to 5. And then I want the format JSON. So click next. So it's pulling, and then as you can see here, I see I got total items, ID, and then index number, start index, page, and then the subject. You can see the subject city, the date, and then the title, and then the node, year, things like that for 5. And then you can preview, and then you can create a project. And then you can start cleaning data here in OpenRefine. So you don't really need to download the CSV in a separate environment either. And I'm sure that Connie will show you how to clean data once it's in OpenRefine. So do you have any questions so far?
Yes, I have 2 questions for you. The first one that came through was, does a database of open collections with API keys and documentation exist?
You mean the scholarly databases?
Well, I think the question is more, is there a running list of open collections that you can access through an API and the keys and the documentation?
The key is it's individual should have a key separately.
Right.
So I don't think that there is the common key share openly. So in its API documentation, that will tell you how to get that API key.
Right. And so there's no existing sort of database of APIs.
I don't think so.
Okay. Another question was, do you have to download OpenRefine or is it a web-based application?
You have to download the OpenRefine, and I think Connie will cover that part in our next DH Toolbox series. But I just want to show that there is a way to download the datasets to OpenRefine if you chose OpenRefine as your data analysis or cleaning tool set.
Perfect. And one new one just came in. Can you show the page at Chronicling America where you got the API URL and how you set the search term in 5 items?
So give me a second, I will.
Okay.
So if you go Chronicling America, there is information about the site and API. You don't need to, it doesn't require the API key to use, but here you can see the example so you type the base URL as I did. And then if you want, I can share the URL that I use in the chat as well. So the search title wizard term, so that I put the terms Canada, and then I specify the format as JSON, but you can specify your format as Atom as well. And then you can specify the page as 5, but I also put I just put the rows just to return 5 data sets, not the entire data sets. So there are so in this page, they will talk about their parameter that you can use in order to narrow down your search.
If anyone's keeping their eye on the chat, somebody has loaded in Miriam Posner's guide to OpenRefine for anyone who wants to look at it.
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Okay. Go ahead.
Before we launch that poll, If I downloaded data from one of these APIs and then wanted to publish it online as part of my DH project, would I just need to credit the original source, which of course this person would do, or would I still be in breach of copyright? I am particularly concerned about APIs data sets that are behind paywalls.
Behind paywall, it's exactly same, but like Clinically America, it's specified like, oh, you can publish, it's open, it's under open public domain, then like you can share and then you can cite the data source. But the scholarly database, like I think you have I think each publisher has different rule. So like we have to really read through the API documentation, how they want us to cite their data. So, but I think we have to mention that like we use their API, their data source, but I'm not sure whether we can share that one. So if you have any question about the specific database, then I can look for you after this workshop or presentation.
Thank you. That was the last question.
Okay, so the poll. So I just want to know whether you are interested in learning more about API access to datasets. Okay, so maybe for our next workshop we can talk about this particularly.
Yeah, absolutely. We will take questions as we go, but we can schedule a whole session on APIs.
Okay. Okay. My first, so have you used a large data sets of tweets for your research? Okay, I guess mostly no. So for my next, so the So the second study that I'd like to share is open source strategy for documenting events, the case study of the 42nd Canadian federal election on Twitter by Ruiz and Milligan in 2016. So they collect almost 4 million tweets with the hashtag election42, so ELXN, for a total of 102 days, 13 hours, and 15 minutes to analyze text like dominant keywords, retweets, emails, users, URLs embedded in the tweets, and other hashtag used at the same time. And another recent study using Twitter is the data sets on dynamic of coronavirus on Twitter. According to them, different global diseases have attracted the attention in social media before. So when an event of this like this type of event happens, a massive quantity of people goes to these platforms to inform, exchange, post, and look for information. So this way, this data set sort of provides a great perspective on the dynamics of coronavirus on Twitter. So documenting the now basically respond to the public's use of social media for clinically historically significant events and provides a user-friendly means of collecting and preserving digital social media content for researchers, librarians, and archivists. So as we can see, the 42nd Canadian federal election on Twitter really represents an exponential increase in the amount of information generated, retained, and preserved from like everyday peoples, although Twitter is not really a representative sample of broader society. So there are two ways to access tweets. So one is like collect tweets yourself or using tweets collected by other people or institutions like the libraries. So these are the tools to collect Twitter data. Some of them are a little bit advanced, but some of them they're really easy. So and then I'm gonna show you really a cool tool that you could use without any programming language or programming knowledge. So NetClick is a community support text. I'm talking about this one. Text and social network analyzer that can automatically summarize and visualize public online conversation on social media sites. And also the social media research toolkit is a list of 50 plus social media research tools curated by researchers at the Social Media Lab at Ted Rogers School of Management, Ryerson University. So the kit features sort of the tools that have been used in peer review academic studies. So it's really academically proved tools as well. And then also Rapid Minor, there was this Toolbox series workshop last year. So Jeda, do we have a slice for that one somewhere?
Unfortunately, we don't, but
Okay.
If there's wild demand, we can see if we can bring it back and do a replay.
Because it's one of the really easy tool as well. So if you're interested kind of in collecting Twitter data for yourself, you could use the Rapid Minor, and then I think it's free for University of Ottawa community. And so I'm gonna show you the twerk because it's really it's a command line tool to collect Twitters, but at the same time you can visualize your tweet and then like extract some of the data and also some of the tool functions. So okay, can you see my command line? So it's really, so you have to download Twerk first, but I already downloaded. And then this is not about Twerk, but more rather it is just a demonstration. So once you download your Twerk in your machine, you can just type Twerk and then search. Let's say I'm interested in K-pop hashtag. So I just put K-pop. So it tells like a search K-pop in Twitter with search K-pop hashtag and then save as I'm gonna save as demo JSON. So it is working, as you can see, like the Python. So it's working behind the scene, but as you can see here in my directory, the demo is created, and then now Twerk collects tweets which include K-pop as hashtag. So once you're done that, since it's working, so I can really show you anything, but like once you are done with the collecting, I use Twerk to, where is my mouse? Can you see my mouse?
No.
Oops. Okay.
There it is.
I can see here. Oh, there we go. So like so Twerk provides some of the utility or functions. So I can like create the word cloud using Twerk, and also I can analyze kind of the emoticon that each tweet use. So like for open access, like they use like the lock sign a lot in their tweets. So it's a little bit advanced using Twerk, but I'm going to demonstrate the text as well. So anyway. Okay. So you need to, it's a kind of the browser extension. So you need to install the text first, and then they will ask you to go through kind of authenticate, and then like they will ask you to sync with your Twitter account. But once you did everything, then like you can just type the term here that you want to put. So like Ottawa, and then like there's a text menu, and then run now, and then again like the Google should kind of is working for you to collect Twitter including Ottawa. And then once done, like you can see like they collect Twitter data sets in Google Sheet easily. So like you can start kind of analyzing data sets like using Google Sheets. So you don't really need to worry about because it disappeared because it is running still. So you can kind of visualize and then edit or manipulate data in Google Sheet easily as well. So there is a way to collect tweets using Google Sheet, which is really user-friendly. And then when you want to reuse data sets of tweets created by other people, here is a list of to-go-to places. So the .now catalog is a collectively curated listing of Twitter data sets. So, so you can see the title and then tweet counts, like how many tweets included in that data set, and then creator, so who created those or who collect those tweets, and then subjects, and then repository where these data sets are saved. So keep in mind that Twitter's developers policy let us share tweets within an institution for a research purpose. But if you want to share with other, you have to hydrate tweets ID. That means like the Twerk provides a tool to hydrate and dehydrate your tweets or tweets that were created by other researchers. So that's why I showed you the Twerk as a tool. And then I noticed also that sometimes these massive data sets are not working great with my own computer because it consumes a lot of resources in my local machine. So if you need additional like resources, I highly recommend to use like high performance computing provided by Compute Canada if you are part of the University of Ottawa community or the Canadian institution. And also at the University of Ottawa, we have really amazing senior scientific computing specialists, Yano. So if you need any questions to access, then you can email him and he will help you. And also at the University of Ottawa, we provide storage. So sometimes when I collect Twitter, my computer says like, oh, you're running out of storage. So I have to find a solution. And then this was really great. So do you have any questions so far?
Yes, I have one. In the K-pop example, did you set time period and a limit to the number of results you want?
I can do that as well with the parameters. Yes, okay. There are ways to do that, but I don't remember by heart, to be honest. So because that's a simple search and then I remember by heart. But yes, there are parameters to set out as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
One just came in. Can these tools be used to collect and analyze Facebook comments?
Facebook, no, because Facebook is a little bit complicated because they changed their policy right after the what was the scandal's name? The Analytica?
Cambridge Analytica?
Yes. So they changed rule completely. So before it was really open, but now it's really locked down. So the Facebook is a little bit hard to get data such as comments and posts, things like that for research, even for research purpose. So that's why you will see a lot of tools just for Twitter, not really for Facebook for that reason.
And we're actually going to be having an Instagram session after following Professor Crompton's on cleaning data. So we'll learn some tricks of the trade for analyzing Instagram.
Yeah.
So that was the last question. So whenever you're ready.
Okay. So my next question is, do you trust data sets from internet? Okay, yeah, I guess mostly we trust data sets from internet. Oh, that's good because I'm going to talk about data set you can find from internet. So Zurowski and other researchers conduct a very interesting study about online restaurant reviews. They discovered that negative reviews, especially in expensive restaurants, were more likely to use features previously associated with a narrative of trauma. So like negative emotional vocabulary or a focus on the past actions of third-person actors such as waiters, and increased use of reference to we and us. So that suggests really that negative review function as a means of coping with service-related trauma. But positive reviews also employed framing contextualized by expense. So inexpensive restaurant review use the language of addiction to frame the reviewer as craving fatty or starched food. But positive reviews of expensive restaurants were long narrated using long words, emphasize the reviewer's linguistic capital, and also focusing on sensory pleasure. So they argue that the word used in online restaurant reviews provide a surprising source of insight into human psychology. So in order to do so, they chose almost 900,000 online restaurant reviews as their research data sets from Yelp.com from 2006 to 2011 in 7 cities, including Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. I've mentioned this book so many times and possibly in my previous year's Toolbox series, but here it is again. So Stephen Deviotzi argued that the data from internet search and other online response offer really unprecedented peek into people's psyche. So according to him, people search for information is in itself information, but his studies have been rejected by 5 academic journals due to peer reviewers' doubt on the data source, previously 2017. So, but he used data sets from the internet basically. So much of the new information these days flows from Google and social media. So some of it is a product of digitization of information that was previously hidden away in cabinets or files. So he introduced a new and creative approach to data that are crucial in an era of like overflowing with information and how it is valid. A method of analyzing large number of Google search queries to track influenza-like illness in a population. So they discovered that the relative frequency of certain queries is highly correlated with the percentage of physicians' visits in which a patient present with influenza-like symptoms. So this approach may make it possible to utilize search queries to detect influenza epidemics in areas with a large population of web search users. So again, COVID related. Google, we talk about this a lot, but Google may already know that it's coming based on people's search. So in the recent study around COVID-19, this team of researchers conclude the same thing like influenza cases. So public interested indicate in the search can help to monitor sort of the progression of an outbreak. So Google Trends based on the volumes of search can be used to associate and predict outbreaks worldwide and provides a valuable pictures of the outbreak of COVID-19 in real time. So Google Trends, so you can download really this search in Google as aggregated. So it's anonymized and categorized and aggregated. So there is no really personal information identification, things like that. And also you can do the real-time data like as it goes, or like the non-real-time data, which means the archive from certain time to certain time. So like I specify the geographic of Canada. So you can see like that's the Canadian search trends here, like the Canadian economic and COVID, and then like the recently trending in Canada, but you can specify like the different countries, like if I choose Korea, well, I can find Korea. So you can see like the Japan, like the their trends, their search trends, things like that. And the other one I want to list here is Amazon product data by one of the researchers in UCSD, University of California, San Diego. So it contains product reviews and metadata from Amazon, including 142.8 million reviews from May 1996 to July 2014, and also there is updated version of 2018 as well. And then so some of the researchers use these data sets especially for sentiment analysis associate with the product reviews, like how many reviewers use the negative terms or positive terms, how their emotion reacted to the certain products, and then things like that. And then other professors use this data set for their recommender systems as well. So do you have any questions about the data from the internet?
I don't have any questions yet.
Okay. So my next question, how many women are represented in Wikipedia? Okay, so people said like 14%, but actually it's more than that. So almost 19% as of September 29, 2020, but still it's very, not many.
You mean as subjects, right? As
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
As a as a woman.
Right, like as a biographic entry.
Yes.
Yeah. And not as authors of.
No, not authors, not editors, no.
Okay.
Woman representation. Oops. Okay, so the reason why I ask you that question, there is one interesting study about public recognition of female scholars in Wikipedia. So a lot of us, we talk about there are less women in Wikipedia, and also in scientific community or research community, we talk about it's really hard for women to be recognized, although it's the same achievement and things like that. So these researchers came up with very interesting methodology in order to verify if this is true or not. So they use So their research question was like, female scholars face additional hurdles in attaining public recognition for their work for the same level of achievement. So in order to discover or identify that, like they download scientific accomplishment from Google Scholar, because you, as again, like you can download data sets from Google Scholar. And also they identify whether it's a male or female based on genderized IO site, again, which is the open website to indicate like that these women are more likely to be women. This name would be more likely a man. And also in terms of recognition, they thought that like Wikipedia could be a good example to be recognized, because in order to have Wikipedia pages, you have to be notable, because there are certain rules in Wikipedia to create those pages. So they discover basically that like, again, like even just a same scientific achievement between men and women, but men are more likely to have a Wikipedia page while female scientists are not. So this study is really interesting, not just the finding, but in terms of the way they try to answer their questions, and then the data set they use from the internet, and also the methodology. And the other one, the question the Stephen Deviucci had in mind is that what does it take to actually attain the level of prominence? So according to his, so basically what successful people had in common. So according to his analysis of thousands of Wikipedia pages, so basically growing up near a big college town that is diverse and somewhat urban, like people are more likely to be successful. So again, like he downloaded all of Wikipedia, around 150,000 editor-approved entries about individual to comprise his initial data sets. So his metric for success was simply that, again, like the previous study, individual had their own Wikipedia page. So he acknowledged, but he also acknowledged that the metric for notability wasn't perfect, but he said that he was able to remove illegitimate data points without affecting result really too much. So the data set that he used include its person's countries of birth, date of birth, occupation, and gender. But again, like he found in common that like most of them, like they grew up in like the college town, urban and diverse, and like very immigrant oriented friendly cities. But again, this study is really interesting in terms of the methodology and data set that he used. So Wikimedia provides really public dumps of their wiki content, including Wikidata, and of related data such as search index and short URL mapping. So what I mean a dump here is a refer to a periodic snapshot of a database. So the dump are used by researchers for archiving, but editing of the wikis, and for provision of the data in an easy queryable format. So you need to, in order to use those data sets, because it's really huge and sometimes you don't really need to all of them. So you have to identify what data set that you need from this dump Wikipedia data set. So you need to parse the full dump in order to use the data set and find the information that you want. So its steps are really similar to web scraping. So if you're interested further, you can check out the workshop that I did last year on web scraping for DAs, and there is a link to the URL as well.
Can I jump in with one question?
Yeah.
So the Amazon product data database that you showed, is it a searchable database, or was it citing a study?
It's not really searchable. It's a archive data sets.
Okay.
So you can find a list of data set, but like, again, it's archive and then it's not searchable by a certain keywords or things like that, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions about data related to Wikipedia or Wikidata?
No, not yet.
Okay. So the fifth data set that I want to share is archived web content. So we all know that web is really fragile and they disappear very quickly. And in addition, any recent social justice movement happened online, such as Me Too movement and Black Lives Matter. So if we don't archive or capture them, we miss really part of the history for our future generation. So for example, the digital footprint of Me Too measure more than 19 million English language Twitter posts and thousands of news articles and personal testimonials. So it's really important. And then some of the academic libraries or heritage collection or museum, they start archiving or curating Me Too related web content. So like one example is the Me Too Web Archives collections. So you can see a list of URL they try to curate and archives, and then with the metadata information. And another example is the in the Chinese context. So the IB Plus Library Confederation, they came up with a list of the Chinese website that talk about Me Too movement here. So you can check those websites if you're interested or if you want to study about the Me Too movement. So like the Twitter dataset or tweet dataset, so there are two ways. So one is like you can create work file. So it's a web archiving format yourself using free tools like Web Recorder. So you can download the web recorder first, and then you can archive and capture the website yourself. Or again, like you can use Work Create, like the Chrome extension. So if you add that extension and then start archiving, the browser does that job for you. But if you want to reuse rock file that created by university, I list five Canadian institutions who provide this file. But again, I don't see my mouse. Sorry about that. Let me. Oh, there we go. So, for example, University of Toronto repository. It takes time. Okay, so as you can see here, you can find a file by HTML, and then you can specify the public domain, and then University of Toronto one. You can filter by types of pages, like I chose the HTML. I guess today the University of Toronto repository is responding really slowly, but again, like if you want to reuse some of the web archive content created by university, these are the repository that you can check out. And then again, like there are a lot of tools to analyze archive web content. And today I want to show you the Archives Unleashed Cloud. It's free for anyone if you're interested. So if I go to my collection, I have 2 collections. That's not really public yet, but like it does some of the analysis for you, like the hyperlink grab, how your web archive content is related with domain. So mostly WordPress, because it was built based on the WordPress domain. And then you can like see the domain and also download some derivatives like for using Gatsby, road network domains, and also web page text. So like you can really download, or you can really do the text analysis to analyze the web archive content, also the domain. So it does a job for you automatically. And then again, it's really a great tool for researchers, and it's really, it's free. So if you're interested, I really highly recommend to use archives on this cloud. So any questions about the web archive content or tools that I briefly show you?
No, no questions have come in yet.
Okay, so the 6th one is image. So I noticed that some of you study image for your data sets. So the one example is the illustrated newspaper analytic project. So this project develops sort of the techniques in computer vision and image processing for large-scale interpretation of historical illustration. So the use a set of illustrated British newspapers, including the graphic and the illustrated Polish news and etc. in the 19th century periodical. So they believe that the computational techniques could offer new ways of assessing and analyzing the massive visual archive. And they also suggest like DH usually focus really on the text historical data sets, but with this approach, maybe DH research could focus also on like the visual materials just beyond the text as well. So visual analysis consists of using computational process to study large collections of images. So some work focused on using algorithm to study patterns in visual data sets or improving OCR transcription accuracy for researchers. So for example, the researchers, I believe at the University of Nebraska, they use image processing methods to identify poetic passages in unstructured image sets. So compared to text analysis, there are still fewer open source tools for image analysis for DH researchers. But if you use Python, a Scikit image library includes really various functions to perform image operation. And also, if you want to identify objects in image or find out similar image, something like that, like the TensorFlow, which is an open source platform for machine learning, but this is really great for image analysis as well. And then they provide different built-in models for you, like for you to use to apply your data sets of image. So you don't really need to go through a lot of image manually either. So where to find those image data sets? Like Wikicommon, like again, like it's part of the Wikipedia project, but again, like it's a really great source to download a lot of images under public domain. So there is really no copyright restriction for your research. But some of the researchers here, like they share their image data sets for other people's use, like the handwritten digit and then Caltech 101 categories. And then some of them also share their image data sets in Kaggle. And again, the library digital collections repository, you can find those images for your research as well. So any questions about the image, like the image analysis?
Nothing has come through yet.
Okay. So my last conventional data set is YouTube. So you know that YouTube include not just video, but also comments and then like the trending search among people, what type of video they watch, things like that. So that's why some of the researchers focus on YouTube for their data set to analyze like how humans interact with information, things like that. So this study is really interesting. Again, like the COVID-19 related English and Mandarin content since this outbreak. And then they also discovered that the medical content of this video is suboptimal and had higher viewership than useful information. So this is really related to like the fake news and then how it is distributed, things like that. So YouTube share like they release their data sets under YouTube 8M segments data set. So this is kind of the extension of the YouTube 8M data set with human verified segment annotation. So it's really helpful if you want to analyze the video or comment, things like that. And then they also provide some of the built-in tool so that like you can just run their query and then see what it comes. But also like in Kaggle, like trending YouTube video statistic, they share the videos from across the world, including US, like Great Britain, Canada, South Korea, and India. And then in Kaggle, this is really interesting because like you can see their data sets, but if you go to notebooks, you can see how other people create their queries and then reuse their queries for your study. So you don't really need to develop from scratch in order to analyze or visualize your data set. Rather, you can just see and then run their query, and then you can apply again like their query to your research. So, so as a librarian, I'm here to help you in terms of like when you need to explore unconventional data sets for your research, or if you need to identify tools and then how this can be used and applied to your research. And then also if you need any help kind of guide through how to use those tools for your research, I'm here and I'm happy to help. So just email me, and then again, it's a Q&A session. So thank you.
Thank you, Yoo Young. We don't seem to have any lingering questions. If you have one, please do insert it into the Q&A panel, and I'm watching that. Mm-hmm. But while we have a couple of minutes, first I want to thank you for another information-packed presentation. I'm going to be sharing these slides on the Digital Humanities website, so that's dhsite.org. It will be linked under the description for this particular workshop on the DH Toolbox page. And just a note for next week, Dr. Constance Crompton is going to deliver a workshop, sorry, not next week, in 2 weeks from today. There will be a workshop on cleaning your data, and she's going to be demonstrating with OpenRefine. So if you want to prepare for that one in advance, go to openrefine.org and you can download the application in advance of that workshop, but we'll maybe set up a few minutes at the start. So if you aren't able to do it in the next couple of weeks, we can have time at the start for you to do that. And I think that's all for today. Thank you very much, Yoo Young. Oh, a question just came in. What would you suggest is the best approach for collecting memes tied to a particular hashtag as a data set? This is a really great question.
Okay, so if you mention about the Twitter platform, then like Twerk is really a great tool again, because it includes some of the functionality already to identify those memes for you. But if you refer to other platforms like Facebook, again, like because of the Facebook's policy, it's really hard. But again, like after Connie's presentation, there is an Instagram, so maybe Instagram could do that way. So please attend that workshop as well.
We had another question in the chat about whether or not registration is still open. And yes, absolutely. If you haven't yet registered for any of the future workshops, go to dhsite.org. I believe it's / workshops, digital humanities toolbox, and you can register to all the future workshops. We're not going to be closing the registration until the morning of that particular workshop. So you can register right up until the last minute almost. If there's no more questions, we'll end it here. The slides will be posted by the end of the day so that you can access all of this information, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks, same day of the week, same time, same platform, and we wish you all a good week, a good couple of weeks. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
All right.